You know what is strange about looking middle class? It can cost so much money that it quietly prevents you from actually becoming financially stable. That sounds backwards, because middle class is supposed to mean normal, responsible, comfortable, not rich, not broke, just fine. A decent apartment or house, a reliable car, clean clothes, a phone that works, groceries in the fridge, maybe a vacation once in a while, maybe dinner out on Friday, maybe the kind of life where nobody looks at you and thinks, something is wrong. But here is the part nobody likes to admit. A lot of what we call middle class is not a financial position anymore. It is a costume, and that costume has payments. My name is Cash Cat, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, the fish bank, the mouse market, and why so many people who look completely fine on the outside feel like their finances are being held together with tape and optimism. The real cost of looking middle class is not just the money you spend. It is the money you never get to keep because you are constantly paying to appear okay. That is the hidden trap. When people imagine financial struggle, they picture something obvious. Empty fridge, broken car, bills scattered on a table. Maybe a person choosing between groceries and rent. And yes, that kind of struggle is real. But there is another kind of financial stress that is quieter and much more common than people think. It is the stress of looking stable while feeling unstable. It is driving a nice enough car, but hoping the payment clears after payday. It is living in a decent place, but having almost nothing left after rent. It is showing up to birthdays, dinners, weddings, school events, work functions, and family holidays, because opting out would require explaining things you do not want to explain. It is having a life that looks normal, but only because your future self keeps paying for it. That is the real cost. And it usually begins with the phrase, "This is just what people do." People finance cars. People upgrade phones. People move to better neighborhoods. People buy furniture on payment plans. People use credit cards for trips. People spend money on weddings, baby showers, kids' sports, holiday gifts, work clothes, streaming services, gym memberships, and all the little things that make life look like it is moving in the correct direction. None of these things are automatically bad. That is what makes this topic tricky. Cash Cat is not here to hiss at your couch or shame you for owning a decent pair of shoes. The problem is not that any single middle-class expense destroys you. The problem is the stack. The car payment stacks on the insurance. The rent stacks on the utilities. The phone payment stacks on the subscriptions. The school costs stack on the groceries. The birthday gifts stack on the credit card. The vacation payment stacks on the emergency you did not plan for. Then one day your paycheck arrives, and almost every dollar already has somewhere to go. And from the outside, nothing looks wrong. That is why this trap is so hard to escape. If you were obviously overspending on diamonds and yachts, the problem would be easy to identify. But most people are not ruining their finances with yachts. They are doing it with things that seem reasonable one at a time. That is the sentence to remember. Reasonable one at a time, dangerous together. A $90 phone bill sounds normal. A $700 car payment sounds normal now, even though it used to sound wild. A $180 internet and streaming pile sounds normal. A $250 dinner for a family or group occasion sounds normal. A $1,000 rent increase sounds terrible, but also somehow normal. A $4,000 vacation on a card sounds like something everyone does if they need a break badly enough. And because each thing feels normal, nobody stops to ask whether normal is affordable. That is where looking middle class becomes expensive. Let us talk about the first big category: housing. Housing is the foundation of the middle class image. Where you live says something. People pretend it does not, but it does. The neighborhood, the building, the school district, the commute, the kitchen, the guest bathroom, the parking situation. These things become signals. They tell the world, I am doing fine. And because housing is so emotionally loaded, people stretch for it. They stretch because the safer neighborhood feels responsible. They stretch because the better school district feels like love. They stretch because having space feels like adulthood. They stretch because moving backward feels embarrassing. They stretch because everyone around them is stretching too. But housing has a special danger. It is not just one purchase. It is the purchase that decides how much pressure every other month has. If your housing cost is too high, the rest of your budget becomes a negotiation with a wall. You can cancel a subscription, sure. You can buy cheaper groceries, maybe. You can skip restaurants for a while. But if the rent or mortgage is too big, the heavy part of the problem resets every single month. This is how people become house comfortable and life poor. They live somewhere nice enough that no one worries about them, but they cannot actually relax inside it because the payment is swallowing the oxygen. The next category is the car. The car is one of the loudest middle-class signals because it follows you everywhere. A home mostly signals to people who visit. A car signals at work, school, errands, family events, stoplights, parking lots, and every moment you arrive somewhere. So people buy more car than transportation requires. Again, not because they are foolish, because the car has become part of the story they are trying to tell about themselves. Reliable, successful, safe, responsible, not falling behind. But a car that exists to make you look stable can make you financially unstable. The payment is only the beginning. Insurance rises, repairs cost more, tires cost more, registration can cost more, fuel can cost more. And then there is the invisible cost. Because the car looks nice, you feel pressure to maintain the life around it. You do not want to be the person driving a beautiful car while saying no to every dinner. So the car becomes part of a larger identity package. That is how one payment invites other payments. This is the part people miss. Status expenses rarely travel alone. They bring friends. A nicer apartment wants nicer furniture. A nicer car wants cleaner clothes. A nicer job wants better lunches. A nicer neighborhood wants different social habits. A nicer phone wants a better plan. A nicer lifestyle wants constant maintenance. That maintenance becomes what I call status rent. Status rent is the monthly cost of continuing to look like the version of yourself you already presented to the world. Once people think you are doing well, it becomes emotionally expensive to reveal that you are not. So you keep going. You say yes to the trip because everyone expects you to. You buy the gift because showing up empty-handed feels humiliating. You attend the dinner because skipping it would start questions. You keep the car because selling it would feel like failure. You renew the lease because moving somewhere cheaper feels like admitting the old place was too much. And little by little, your life becomes a performance funded by your future. Now let us bring the fish bank into this. The fish bank does not care how middle class you look. It only knows what is there. This is where people get a painful reality check. They might have the car, the apartment, the clothes, the phone, the weekends, the social life, and the photos. But when the app opens, the balance tells a quieter truth. Maybe there is $400. Maybe there is $73. Maybe there is technically money, but only because the credit card bill has not hit yet. That is when the gap between appearance and reality starts to feel heavy. And it is not just about the balance. It is about the feeling of fragility. When you look middle class but do not have middle class stability, every normal problem becomes emotionally confusing. You think, I should be past this. I have a decent job, I pay my bills, I look like I am doing okay. So why does one car repair feel like a personal disaster? The answer is that appearance ate the buffer. This is the real cost of looking middle class. It consumes the money that would have made you feel middle class on the inside. The money that could have created an emergency fund goes to payments. The money that could have gone into the mouse market goes to maintaining the image. The money that could have bought flexibility goes to fixed obligations. And because fixed obligations are so quiet and automatic, you do not feel like you are making a big decision every month. You just feel broke after doing everything right. That is what makes it so frustrating. People are not always broke because they are reckless. Sometimes they are broke because they are obedient. They followed the script. Get the place, get the car, get the wardrobe, get the phone, get the furniture, go to the events, keep up with the people around you. Never look like you are struggling. Never make anyone uncomfortable by saying, that is not in my budget. But the script forgot to include margin, and margin is where peace lives. Without margin, Even a good income feels bad. Without margin, every paycheck is just a checkpoint between obligations. Without margin, you can look successful and still be one emergency away from high-interest debt. Now, the painful part is that middle-class expectations are not random. They come from real desires. People want dignity. They want comfort. They want safety. They want their kids to have good experiences. They want their parents to feel proud. They want their friends to see them as equal. They want to feel like their hard work is producing visible progress. Those are human desires. The financial problem begins when visible progress replaces actual progress. Visible progress is the upgrade people can see. Actual progress is the freedom people cannot see yet. Visible progress is a newer car. Actual progress is no car payment and $15,000 at the fish bank. Visible progress is a nicer apartment. Actual progress is rent you can afford while investing every month. Visible progress is a vacation you post. Actual progress is taking a vacation without creating a debt hangover. Visible progress is looking like you have arrived. Actual progress is not being terrified when something breaks. The hard thing is that visible progress gets applause. Actual progress often gets silence. Nobody claps when you do not upgrade your car. Nobody comments, "Wow, your emergency fund looks incredible." Nobody sees the money you did not spend at Target. Nobody congratulates you for staying in the apartment that is good enough. Nobody knows when you choose not to finance something. But your future knows. Your future feels every one of those choices. This is why building real stability can feel lonely at first. You may look less impressive than people who are actually in worse shape. You may drive the older car while someone with credit card debt drives the new one. You may rent the smaller place while someone with no savings hosts in the nicer one. You may say no to trips while someone else says yes and quietly spreads the cost over 12 months. And if you judge yourself by appearances, you will feel behind. But if you judge yourself by options, you may realize you are ahead. Options are the real middle-class luxury now. The option to handle a $1,000 surprise without panic. The option to leave a bad job without immediate disaster. The option to invest consistently. The option to sleep. The option to tell the truth about what you can and cannot afford. That last one is huge. One of the most expensive things in life is pretending. Pretending turns a dinner invitation into a credit card balance. Pretending turns a gift exchange into stress. Pretending turns weddings, holidays, and birthdays into financial traps. Pretending makes you say, "Sure, that works," when what you mean is, "I cannot afford that without hurting myself." And the more you pretend, the more expensive your social life becomes. Now, some people will say, "But relationships matter. Experiences matter. Life is not just saving money." Correct. Life is not just saving money. Cash Cat fully agrees. A life where you never enjoy anything because you are worshiping a number is not financial wisdom. It is fear in a spreadsheet. But there is a difference between spending on what matters and spending to avoid being judged. Spending on what matters leaves you feeling clear. Spending to avoid judgment leaves you feeling resentful. You know the difference. There is a dinner you choose because you truly want to be there, and there is a dinner you attend because everyone else is going, and you cannot handle being the one who says no. There is a vacation that fits your life, and there is a vacation you book because you feel behind. There is clothing you buy because you need it, and clothing you buy because work makes you feel like your current self is not acceptable. The goal is not to spend nothing. The goal is to stop spending unconsciously on the costume. So how do you tell if you are paying too much to look middle class? Start with this question. If nobody could see it, would I still want it? That question is brutal in the best way. If nobody could see your car, would you choose the same payment? If nobody could see your apartment, would you choose the same rent? If nobody could see the logo, the trip, the restaurant, the furniture, the phone, or the neighborhood, would you still choose it? Sometimes the answer is yes. Great. That means the purchase may actually match your values. But if the answer is no, then you are not buying the thing. You are buying the reaction. And reactions are a terrible asset. They disappear almost instantly. Someone notices your car for 3 seconds. You pay for 6 years. Someone likes your vacation photo. You carry the balance for months. Someone compliments your place. You absorb the rent every single month. This is one of the worst trades people make. Long-term obligation for short-term validation. The mouse market works the opposite way. At first, nobody notices. Investing $200 a month does not make people gasp. Building a boring emergency fund does not look stylish. Paying off a credit card is not glamorous. But over time, those invisible choices become visible freedom. You become calmer. You become harder to pressure. You negotiate differently. You stop needing every purchase to prove something. You can help family without destroying yourself. You can take opportunities. You can choose your life with less fear. That is real status. Not looking like you are fine. Being fine when life gets weird. Now let us talk about kids and family, because this is where the middle-class costume becomes emotionally powerful. Parents often spend too much because they do not want their children to feel less than. They want the sports, the birthday parties, the clothes, the school events, the trips, the experiences. And again, this comes from love. But love without limits can become debt. A child does not need a parent who finances every appearance of normal. A child needs stability. They need a home where money is not always a silent storm. They need examples of boundaries. They need to see that saying no is not failure. They need to learn that value and price are not the same thing. Sometimes the most loving financial sentence is, "We are not doing that this year." Not because you do not care, because you do. Because you are choosing the fish bank buffer over the performance. Because you are choosing not to teach your family that every social expectation deserves access to your paycheck. Because you are choosing a calmer household over a more impressive one. That is hard, but it is powerful. Now let us make this practical. If you feel trapped by the cost of looking middle class, do not try to change everything overnight. That usually creates panic, and panic creates rebellion. Instead, identify the fixed expenses that are doing the most damage. The biggest usually are housing, transportation, debt payments, and recurring lifestyle costs. Housing and transportation are the big ones because they set the baseline. If those are too high, everything else has to be perfect, and nobody's life is perfect. A slightly cheaper apartment or a much cheaper car can do more than canceling 10 tiny subscriptions. That does not mean small spending is irrelevant. It means big fixed costs decide how much oxygen your budget has. Then look at social spending. Not with shame, with honesty. How much are you spending because you truly value it? How much are you spending because saying no feels awkward? How much are you spending to maintain an image people may not even be thinking about? Then look at debt. Debt often represents old versions of the middle-class costume. Past dinners, past trips, past furniture, past emergencies, past attempts to keep up. The purchase is gone, but the payment stayed. That is why debt feels so emotionally heavy. It is not only money leaving, it is the past charging rent. As you reduce those payments, you are not just freeing dollars, you are freeing attention. You are creating room to breathe. And with that room, your financial life starts to change. First, the fish bank stops looking terrifying. Then the credit card balances stop growing. Then the mouse market stops feeling like something for other people. Then one day, you realize your life may look a little less flashy, but it feels much more yours. That is the trade. You may have to look slightly less impressive for a while to become much more stable. And that is worth it. Because looking middle class is fragile if it depends on debt and payments. Being financially stable is quieter, but stronger. The real middle class dream was never supposed to be constant consumption. It was supposed to be security, a decent life, some savings, a future that does not depend on every paycheck arriving perfectly, the ability to handle surprises, the ability to help your kids without bankrupting yourself, the ability to retire someday with dignity. Somewhere along the way, the symbols replaced the substance. The car replaced mobility. The house replaced safety. The vacation replaced rest. The phone replaced connection. And the image replaced stability. And now millions of people are paying for the symbols while missing the thing those symbols were supposed to represent. So here's the question Cash Cat wants you to carry with you. Am I buying stability, or am I buying the appearance of stability? Because those are not the same thing. Buying the appearance of stability can keep you broke for years. Buying actual stability might look boring at first, but it changes how your life feels from the inside. The real cost of looking middle class is not just the car, the rent, the clothes, the dinners, the trips, the subscriptions, and the payments. The real cost is the margin you lose. The emergency fund that never forms, the investments that never begin, the career risks you cannot take, and the honesty you avoid. The future you keep delaying so the present can look normal. But the good news is, you do not have to keep paying status rent forever. You can choose the older car, you can choose the smaller place, and you can choose the honest no. You can choose to let people wonder instead of explaining. You can choose to put money into the fish bank before you put it into appearances. You can choose to send quiet dollars into the mouse market instead of sending loud dollars into things that depreciate. And over time, the life that looked less impressive may become the one that actually feels free. That is the twist. The real cost of looking middle class is that it can stop you from becoming the very thing you are trying to look like. So do not chase the costume, build the stability. The people who matter will understand. And your future self will finally have something better than an image. They will have options.